Welcome, everyone. This is the July 7, 2026 Civic Design Review meeting of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. My name is Mina Monavarian with the Department of Planning and Development. This is a hybrid meeting with both remote and in-person participation options. Hey, Eliza. For your information, this meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are giving your consent to be recorded. A link to the recording will be posted on the Philadelphia City Planning Commission website. The agenda and meeting materials can also be found on the website. Thank you. The agenda and meeting materials can also be found on the website, which can be found by going to the public meetings webpage of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. Please use the QR code on this screen to access the webpage. Your safety is our priority. Please note that you are currently in room 18-029. The two doors along the sidewall to your left leads to the elevator lobby. Restrooms are also in the lobby across from the elevators. In the event of an emergency, loudspeaker announcements will provide safety information. If you do not hear the announcement, please follow the directions of the security officers and staff. The Civic Design Review Committee is a subcommittee of the Philadelphia City Planning Commission and is charged with assessing the design of the public realm of proposed building projects in Philadelphia and how they impact their neighborhoods. CDR is an advisory process, and however, applicants are encouraged to accept the results of the review and incorporate the committee's findings into their design. The Civic Design Review Committee encourages and values participation during its meetings. Members of the public, you will have the opportunity to comment on agenda items during the meeting. Questions and comments will be heard during the public comment period, which will be opened and closed by the CDR committee chairperson. Public comments should focus on design-related issues only. When addressing the committee, please speak clearly and identify yourself by name and, if applicable, affiliation. A 2-minute time limit for public comments will be enforced by the committee chair and the meeting host. If virtual, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom application and wait to be unmuted by the meeting host. If you're joining by Zoom phone, you may use the raise hand function by dialing *9 during the public comment period. Staff will unmute phone users. Please note that Q&A is for procedural questions only, and we ask that you avoid writing your questions and comments related to the projects using this function. Planning Commission staff can also receive comments by email. If you would like to submit an email, please send it to cdr@phila.gov. First reviews will start with an applicant's design professional presentation limited to 10 minutes, followed by PCPC staff summary. Second reviews will start with PCPC staff analysis before applicant's design professional presentation limited to 5 minutes. A staff analysis will be based on the requirements of the zoning code and planning commission regulations, which will focus on site design, building design, parking design, sustainable design, and if applicable, public open space design. Public comment will follow. Please do not restate the comments of your neighbors, and comments submitted in advance of the meeting will have been given to the committee and do not need to be read aloud. CDR committee discussion will follow the public comment period. Up to 2 affected RCOs may join the committee for the duration of their cases, and additional RCOs may participate as members of the public. After the discussion, the staff will present notes taken during the meeting. The staff notes are for summary purposes only and not a word-for-word record of the conversation. The CDR committee will vote to adopt staff notes by unanimous consent and will also vote by roll call on whether or not a project needs to return for a second review. For roll call vote, I will ask the commissioners for their votes individually at the end of each agenda item. The chair will now call the meeting to order and announce a quorum. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am CDR Chair Jimena Vale. The Department of Licenses and Inspections has informed the City Planning Commission of 3 cases, 2 of which are coming for the first time. Cases may be heard more than one time. The committee may ask an applicant to return if after discussion significant issues are left unresolved. Committee members, I'm going to call you one at a time. Please acknowledge your presence. Sarah Asheimer.
I'm here.
Clarissa Redding.
Hello, I can hear you.
I'm glad. Dan Garopalo.
Present, thank you.
Let's see. I think that is us for today.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I think
Mina.
so.
Yep. And so we're going to begin with our first case, and that's 1527-47 Callow Hill Street.
Hey, how's it going? Joe Consul for the team for 1527-47 Callow Hill Street. Property owner, 1527 Callow Hill LLC. I've got Design Blends Architecture LLP with me here today, and the owner's available virtually to the extent that he's needed. I'll be brief because the design team is going to walk you guys through everything. This is a buy rate project in the CMX4 district. At a high level, it's for new construction of an 8-story mixed-use building, contains 188 residential dwelling units, ground floor commercial space, includes 63 bicycle parking spaces and 24 vehicle parking spaces in a below-grade garage. The proposed unit mix, as shown in the package, is 18 studio units, 111 one-bedroom units, 52 two-bedroom units, and 7 three-bedroom units. Ground floor includes commercial space, residential lobby and leasing area, resident mail and amenity areas, utility areas, and a loading dock with garage access. The team appeared before Logan Square Neighborhood Association for the RCO meeting. We focused on design and materials, unit mix, streetscape and public realm, ground floor retail use, and operations and infrastructure. The submission from LSNA reflects that member and board responses were generally positive, with the sentiment that the project represents an improvement over the current lot condition. No significant objections were noted from participants. They also noted that no unanswered questions were there at the conclusion of the meeting. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the design team to walk everyone through it. Thanks.
Thank you. Scott Woodruff, Design Blends Architecture, CEO and principal. We'll start going through this, talking about 1527 Callow Hill Street. Joe kind of walked through the program, so I'm not going to go over that. The site is an existing parking lot right north of the 676 turnaround, 16th and Callow Hill Street. There's 2 parking garages that flank either side of that, as well as a surface lot to the north side. Main thing I want to just touch on here with the existing topography is we have about a 6 to 7 foot increase in slope going up 16th Street from Callow Hill being fairly flat. And then we have the remnants of the old rail line that is depressed on the northern side of the site that cuts through. Being that adjacency to the existing rail line that's subterranean here, the design team really focused on some of the history of this area, the industrial context, and some of the existing buildings. As you can see, there's a few photographs of the original structure that was on 16th and Callow Hill. So we took a lot of design cues and aesthetic direction and integrating that into the new design of the building. Let's look at existing photos. You can see there's a newer multifamily building to the north side. Like I said, parking garages are seen kind of flanking both sides of the site currently on Callow Hill. And then the Inquirer building can kind of be seen in the background there on Broad Street. Looking at some of the relatable programs are around us, there is a large amount of multifamily, some that has been constructed recently in the past 5 to 10 years, as well as some existing context that also has been renovated from the existing use to multifamily use. Other notable program near is Community College of Philadelphia, which is just north of this site over on 17th. Looking at the urban context and really understanding figure ground of what this area is, there's really a giant void at this intersection where the site is, really creating unfriendly pedestrian intersection and urban experience. So it's important for us to hold the grounds at that area, really push the facade and create some sort of activation. Looking at circulation on the other side, the main two accesses, Spring Garden and, 676 Vine Street, kind of east to west, and then Broad Street, obviously on north-south the other way. 16th and 15th do get a fair amount of foot traffic, bike traffic up them. Like I said, community college has a large driver traffic. Those parking garages have a lot of vehicles that park and people go to work around those. So there is a fair amount of activation that comes through this site. There's just nothing there to happen at the moment. When we started looking at form, as I said, main driver, maintaining that urban fabric along the street frontages. We created some circulation around the building to the backside and the side there. Cut a light and air void for the program to be relatable, and then pulled back the one side to create a little bit more outdoor amenity and garden space for the residential program. In developing this facade, it was important for us to create a pedestrian scale that was very walkable along the street frontages. So creating a 3-story podium type structure that was very relatable to human scale, and then creating a structured rhythm that kind of harmonizes with the existing industrial kind of balance and facades within the area. And really adding a large amount of glazing at that bottom where the main commercial program of the project is, and then relating back to more punched openings where the residential is above.
About halfway.
Great, perfect. Site sections, like I said, Callow Hill, very flat. You can kind of see relationships to the garages were popped up above those a bit. And then up 16th Street, we have that ground plane that comes up and the kind of arch rhythm kind of molds into the site quite well as it increases in grade there. Looking at the site plan, added street trees the whole way along the site, so the ability that we could. The entire roof will be a green roof on top of this. And like I said, there's a small kind of garden type area towards the rear of the site, which also has access to a small roof deck amenity. On the first floor, large commercial area. We tried to maximize this to the extent that we could. Commercial along Callow Hill and turning 16th Street will be double height space, which we'll look at in a second. Focus entries along Callow Hill Street and then the resident lobby off of 16th, about halfway up. All vehicular traffic was pushed to the north of the site, furthest away from the intersection. So the top garage ramp will go to a subterranean basement, a loading dock right south of it, direct access to a trash room for residents, back of house corridor for commercial. They can use that as loading as well. As you can see, the basement floor plan, we pulled back a little bit just with the parking and the ramp, also trying to minimize any sort of impacts on that existing tunnel at the north of the site. On level 2 floor plan, you can see the double height space in the commercial, the loading dock, double height. So some of that wraps around. So we have partial second floor, and then the third floor starts typical up through 8 at that point. Obviously the small roof deck off of the third floor there to the rear. Looking at some vignettes, section vignettes, and really just highlighting along the ground floor, there is a fluctuation in where the slab is constructed as well as kind of double height versus single height. So along Callow Hill Street, we have a little over 22 feet in height. As it wraps around that side on Callow Hill, it drops back down to just under 12. And then at the garage, we're maintaining 15 feet plus for vehicular traffic coming in and out. And really important for us to try and maintain as much flexibility for that commercial tenant, whoever they may be, coming into the space. Just 2 of the main modules in developing the facade. One more kind of pedestrian focus, one more utilitarian vehicular, but also utilizing the same. And really looking at these modules and how they could create transparency as well as, all right, great. We're gonna keep going. Again, kind of the street, one thing I'll mention here is the insets are 3'7" going into the entryways, still 1'6" at the other ones. Again, trying to allow the pedestrian to experience within the building, pull them into the building, if you will. We'll just keep going through those. Looking at materials of the building, bottom 3 floors, brick articulated arches, the top floor being metal panel, which is more of an off-white with a black infill. Again, this tried to harmonize with some of the existing context, the Empire building, some of the other precast buildings in the area, so that we kind of play off those colors, both from a historical context and some of the existing context around. Around the middle of the building, the brick will transition to a red metal panel, still keeping the same kind of idea of what's on the front of the building, but just a different materiality going over the parking garage and on the interior. The streetscape, we can go through the landscaping, but mainly street trees. We have a few trees that are towards the rear of the property. But again, most of the site is covered with green roof, which is providing most of the infiltration, given the building is mainly covered. And I will leave it right there.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Eliza?
Good afternoon. My name is Eliza Bauer. I'm with the Planning Commission, and I'm going to give the project overview. The site area is a little under 1 acre. It's CMX 4. There's no bonuses being utilized or variances. The present use is a parking lot. It's a bit over 200,000 square feet, 188 dwelling units, 24 parking spaces, and there was a community meeting with the Logan Square Neighborhood Association on June 23rd. So just a little more context about the site. It is pretty close to the SEPTA line, under half a mile. Both the Spring Garden and the Race and Vine stations. There are a number of buses that go along the edges of the site, and it is very close to the Philadelphia Community College. Another thing we wanted to point out was the future rail park that will go into this cut area that's right north of the site. And we just wanted to mention that we would like to see some connection between this site and the future rail park, or ways that the site could acknowledge that potential park. For site design, staff appreciates the addition of street trees, outdoor bike racks, and distinct entrances for commercial and residential activities with associated marquees. We would like them to consider tree trenches with additional plantings to soften that streetscape a little more, especially along busier roads like Callow Hill. Consider program and furnishing along the side yards of Callow Hill. As you can see with the number 2 spot, there's kind of this alleyway, so we don't want it to become a trash or dog waste area. Consider additional pedestrian scale downlighting along Callow Hill and 16th Street. For the building design, staff appreciates the facade articulation with large windows, ground transparency, the entrance with marquees, and a mix of studio 1, 2 and 3 bedroom units. Consider higher quality materials instead of the metal panel to ensure that proposed color is reflected accurately in renderings. Based on the sample, it looks a lot whiter than the rendering is showing. And I know that you mentioned it's slightly off-white, but we just want to make sure it's consistent. Consider larger windows on the rear facade facing north. For the parking design, staff appreciates the below-grade parking with one-way circulation and two-way driveway, and the interior loading zones off 16th Street. But consider adding more loading zones on 16th and Callow Hill for drop off and pickup and Amazon and all those types of delivery services. Consider additional electric vehicle spaces and locate the charging spaces and whether they'll be charger ready or have them already installed. Consider reducing parking to improve the vehicular circulation at the dead ends. It seems a little tight with a 3-point turn. And then consider moving the indoor bike parking to the ground floor to make it easier for residences. To avoid two curb cuts too close to each other because the property north of the site has a curb cut right there too. You have the loading zone and the driveway right next to each other. Consider combining them, so this will reduce the inactive length of the facade. For the sustainable design, add at least one additional EV parking space and identify where they are. And staff appreciates the intent to relocate the existing Indigo bike station and from 16th Street and encourages it to be reinstalled on site. And then staff appreciates the occupiable green roof, but consider adding some shading in that area. And that's it from us. Find a pretty picture to land on. There we go.
Thanks very much, Eliza. Do we have any comments from the public?
I don't see any hands raised at this time.
None here.
No one here.
Committee members, any comments or questions?
I think that this is a great project, and I think, Eliza, I wholeheartedly agree with all of your comments and recommendations. So, that's where I am. I think kudos to everyone here. And I do think, I'm glad you mentioned sort of the future Viaduct Park. Hopefully that is a wild success and something amazing for Philadelphia. Maybe an extra door from the commercial space back onto that, if that's some signature restaurant with a patio on the rail park, that would be awesome. But really nothing additional to add. I did pick up on the color question too. That bone white versus what the renderings show. What the renderings show looks fantastic. But that was a concern I picked up on too, but Eliza mentioned it. That's it.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Anyone else?
I'll second that. I had the same thoughts. I'm very familiar with this site and still park there very often. But I think that this area would benefit from something like this, which is more of an elevated feel than some of the other development in that area.
Excellent. Anything else?
Agree with all of the above. I mean, what do we need in a good urban project? Pay attention to the ground floor, pay attention to the way it meets the sky, bury the cars if you can. So check. A project like this, you might consider going for a LEED certification or boosting the energy code compliance. It says you're going for 2018, that's receding into the past, and improve building envelope commissioning, all those type of things, provide an amenity for the future residents. I always talk about EVs because I drive one now, and nobody ever goes back. No one ever says, I really wish filling up my car. I really wish I could fill up my car at a gas station. So in a couple of years, sales will be back up. People want to park and charge up overnight. So that's kind of a given to work that in. And it's so cheap at the outset and so difficult and challenging 5 years from now. So it's something to consider. And the rail park, I also absolutely agree. We have a visitor coming from London later this month as an architect. And we said, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to go to New York and walk the High Line. Of all the things, and so these, you never know. And a lot of people might live there for 10 years and never realize there's a rail park next door. But the potential for building that amenity into the everyday life of the people that live in a place like this could be, or super amenity for certain type of people. So I agree with that. And I think that Staff did a great job evaluating the potentials here.
Thank you, committee members. I had just a clarifying question more out of curiosity, but the first 3 floors, that's 2 of retail and 1 is residential, is that
Yep,
right? And
yep.
that's the residential floor that we see on the interior courtyard level,
Correct,
right?
yep.
Very good. And then I don't know that we saw, like, in terms of retail, is it multiple, a couple? Is it designed for
It can be split, it
flexibility?
can be split up. Obviously, we want to create enough flexibility, so maybe there's a larger tenant that comes in. It
Mhm.
can be split up if needed too. There's quite a variety of space in there. So, you know, the intent is that we're gonna try and market that fairly hard during construction and hopefully obtain a good tenant.
Yeah, I can't help, I also very much in favor of the project, can't help but imagine people outside and wondering if there's opportunities to create some shade so that there can be some coffee shops and some encourage people, that's a very large street, but encourage people outside. So maybe making that possibility
Yeah.
an option in the design would be great. Okay, I think we can review notes. Liza, is that you? Who's got notes? Yep, okay, great, thank you. Okay, very good. So our notes, this is a great project, improvement compared to some surrounding developments. Consider door to the future rail park and that making that connection. Consider it as an amenity to the building. There are concerns with the bone white not being reflected in the rendering. So in other words, we don't want to see the bone white. We'd like to see something that's more like what's reflected in the renderings, a little bit warmer and contextual. The easiest time to add EV is now, so please consider that. And create some shades on the street for the future commercial spaces. And we are in agreement with all of the staff comments, and congratulations on a great project. Any corrections?
Yeah, and just to focus on building envelope issues.
Oh, yes. For energy. Mhm. Very good. With that, I need a motion to approve the notes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you very much. And a motion to conclude or continue the review.
Motion to conclude.
Second.
Great. Take
Okay, thank you, everyone. There's a
Thank you.
motion to conclude the civic design review process for 1527-47 Callow Hill Street. We don't have any RCOs present. Dan, do you support the motion?
I do.
Clarissa, you make the motion. Sarah, you second it. And Jimena, do you
yes.
support the motion? Unanimous support for the motion. Motion
Thank you, Mina.
carries.
Very good. We'll move on to the second case, and that's 1685 Fulmer Street.
We have an RCO representative, Jack O'Hara, excuse me, joining remotely. I'll promote them, and Alice Yudowich from the council office.
Also remote?
No, they're all remote,
Okay, thank you.
both been promoted.
Okay, go ahead.
Great. Thank you. Good afternoon. Catherine Missimer, zoning attorney with Claire Harrison and Harvey Brandsburg LLP. By way of short introduction, this is a by right industrial warehouse project on a site zoned I-2. I do want to note that there's been a storied history of the site. Historically, a prior owner did propose a residential project at this location, which the neighbors opposed. As a result, the site has remained I-2. In 2023, a prior owner pulled by right zoning permits for 3 warehouse buildings on the site. The current proposal, we believe, represents a reduced impact from an operational standpoint. Obviously, we're going from 3 to 1 building and a more efficient, frankly, use of this site. With me today are members of the project ownership and development teams, the engineers and project architects. John Anderson from Ware Malcolm will walk through our presentation, and then obviously our full team will remain available to the extent there are questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. John Anderson with Ware Malcolm. We're a national design and engineering firm. As Kate mentioned, the subject property we're here to review is 1719 Fulmer Street, located in Northeast Philadelphia, approximately 200 feet from Bustleton Ave, off of the intersection of Fulmer Street and Bustleton Ave. Here you can see the existing site plan. The site is approximately 10.8 acres in total. The grading is sloping down toward Fulmer Street with the high points along the north side of the property line, sloping down and continuing to slope into the L-shaped piece back behind Baines Street on the left side of the screen. A few photos here of the existing conditions. The top left looking back toward Bustleton along Fulmer. The second along Fulmer looking into the site. The third along Fulmer looking toward the bend or intersection at Baines. And the last looking from Baines into the site. This exhibit just shows the separation between the two sites, 1719 to the north and then 1685 Fulmer on the southwest corner. The proposed site plan here, site engineering drawings have been prepared by Holmes Cunningham Engineering. The site layout proposes a 123,120 square foot warehouse. It's 180 feet in depth, 684 feet in length. The site proposes approximately 35 loading dock doors along the building's south side, shown with the striping to the south side of the building. Auto parking to the north side. There are 108 auto stalls shown on this plan. The portion of the site to the southwest corner is shown as trailer parking for excess overflow trailers to remain. The site access point for passenger vehicles occurs further to the east, closer to Bustleton Ave. The first entrance there you see would be reserved for passenger vehicles to get around to the auto parking in the back side of the site. And then the larger, wider opening near the intersection at Baines and Fulmer would be for truck access into the truck court. This plan shows the substantial landscaping proposed on the site. Along the perimeter, the site boundary lines propose pretty heavy landscaping, new landscaping there, with significant buffers along Fulmer Street, along the between the truck court and Fulmer Street. Pretty robust landscaping proposed there between and along the access points to the site. Also along the trailer parking, there's a pretty significant perimeter of landscaping proposed. This building being speculative in nature does not have a ton of detail to get into as far as the floor plan of the building. It's being designed to be flexible for a number of tenants. We use standards as far as bay spacing. As you can see, the 684-foot length is broken up mainly into 54-foot wide bays, which works with modern racking layouts to be as efficient as possible for the tenants that may need to store goods within the building. The south side of the building is lined with the truck docks. As you saw on the site plan, not all of these are accessible by a full-size truck due to a pinch point on the site. The ones along the left side, the west side of the plan, would be reserved for box truck access only due to minimized turning radius there. Each side of the south elevation has a drive-in ramp for access into the building with an oversized door that would be 12 by 14 feet. And then the building's depth is split into 3 60-foot bays, again, to minimize columns in the way of potential operations for the future tenants. The utility rooms are located in the southeast corner, the electrical room and fire pump room there to tie into utilities out at the street. And then the north side of the building is where we have designed the office corners for future tenants. The primary office corner will be in the northeast corner, secondary office in the northwest corner. And then we would allow for a future office to be cut in if needed, if there were a scenario where a potential third tenant were interested in leasing a portion of the building. When we get to the elevations, I'll show that. As you can see, the top elevation shows the office side, the north side of the building, with the office glazing and canopies shown on the left and right sides of the elevation. And then the center, you'll see a kind of reserved, darker area that matches the same aesthetic of the corners, which would have knockout panels, which are designed to be cut in if needed in the future. The east exterior elevation, again, the main office entry occurs at that corner. So the glass and the canopy would wrap around that corner. You'll notice on the west exterior elevation, we do not wrap the glass there due to a fire rating requirement due to the property setback in that corner. And the south side of the elevation, as you can see, it's the dock doors, the loading doors, drive-in ramps, utility room, access doors, and then we have the sporadic fire department access doors as required by fire code. The south side of the elevation also includes clear story windows to provide daylight into the working area, the loading bay of the warehouse.
2 minutes left.
This gets into a little more detail on the materials of the building. The proposed perimeter would be precast insulated structural concrete panels with steel HSS tube columns and joist girders and steel joists holding up the roof structure. The panels would have a smooth finish with reveals, which are basically shadow lines cast into the panels with a paint scheme, as you see here on the elevations. The paint would be a medium texture coat paint. There's a few renderings here to wrap up the presentation. This one will be taken above Fulmer Street, looking at the truck court and seeing the large industrial building beyond. To the left side, there's the rail line. I believe that's the West Trenton rail that goes through that side of the property or along that side of the property. This would be the northeast corner of the building, the office location. And we tried to create shadow lines with recesses and pop-outs of the building's planes with the concrete panels and accentuate the office entry areas. This is the opposite corner where we've slid the office location and the windows down slightly down the facade to maintain the 3-hour rated fire separation. This is a view from Fulmer Street looking in at the primary passenger auto entrance. And an aerial view from the northeast looking toward the building to show the front elevation and the neighborhood adjacent. I think we can leave it at that for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Nate.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nate Dorfman with the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I will be presenting on 1685 through 1719 Fulmer Street. As far as the project summary goes, it's a almost 11-acre property, over 465,000 square feet, I-2 existing zoning, industrial, no bonuses utilized nor zoning variances. The present use, it's a very vegetated, wooded, vacant land. Again, the proposed use here, 123,120 total square feet for warehouse and storage, which includes 5,000 square feet of office space and 140 vehicular parking spaces. A community meeting with the Greater Bustleton Civic League took place on May 27th, 2026. So again, with the site context, it's a largely wooded land area directly adjacent to a small single-family residential neighborhood in Bustleton. The property is transit accessible, approximately 0.1 miles from the intersection of Bustleton Avenue and Fulmer Street. In that way, it's accessible to the SEPTA Route 58 bus, which connects with the Market Frankford line at the Frankford Transportation Center. So people would be able to get to the site for jobs from different parts of the city. The property is adjacent to a railroad corridor, as the developer had mentioned. From our research, we don't believe it's the West Trenton line. We believe it's an active freight railroad that extends as far as New York City. But we don't believe that passenger rail goes along the railroad next to the property. It's also just north of the Grant Plaza Shopping Center, which contains a large movie theater complex. And it's just south of additional warehouses, as well as other single-family residential communities immediately to the west. In the photos on the bottom of the screen, you can see what the residential community looks like directly adjacent to the property. For site design concerns, the Planning Commission wants to make sure that the ingress and egress of the facility are evaluated. We want to ensure direct connection to Bustleton Avenue. We also recommend additional landscape buffer areas between the residential properties and the site's surface parking lot. We encourage more paths for pedestrian circulation through the parking lot, as well as around the water retention area, and potentially as far as Bustleton Avenue. Ultimately, this would improve safety and activate space throughout the entire site. As far as building design, we encourage adding transparency where possible and making the main building entrance clearer, perhaps through painting it a different color. In terms of parking design, we encourage reducing the amount of parking and adding more vegetation to reduce the heat island effect, as well as adding parking for EVs. In terms of sustainable design, the proposal meets 5 of the 11 applicable metrics. We encourage that the project add solar panels as well as conserve as many trees as possible. And now we'll make our way for the public comment period.
Thank you very much. And I know we have Mr. Jack O'Hara with the RCO. Are you there? Oh, sure.
Yes.
1 second, please.
Sorry, Jack, excuse me. I just wanted to note for the record that the prior owner actually cleared the site. It's not a vegetated site. It's actually vacant.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jack, you're free to speak.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members, thank you. The summary was very spot on in a lot of areas. The forestry warehouse is going to sit directly across 6 residential homes that you can see from the map. And you also described how this parcel was cleared, some time ago. So these homes got to watch this wooded area that has been there for generations, disappear. So, while street safety is the basic concern, obviously with the warehouse and the trucking, we ask that you recognize or appreciate the loss of the open area there and the disruptive street changes that are going to come with this project. But it's to recognize, I think that would be nice for our group to do. We want to make sure, the RCO wants to make sure that this warehouse can coexist in a residential neighborhood, and that none of these changes are going to be a cost to these neighbors. I didn't hear any of that. I'm sure that's going to come up later, the utilities. But yeah, the summary of what came out of our May 27th meeting, I think there were a few things picked up on. The traffic flow within the site was something that we kind of thought might be considered to be amended. Right across from these 6 houses is where the entrance and exit is of this parcel, where all this activity is going to take place. And one of the recommendations that we sent down was that a second entrance could be, made further down Fulmer. So a lot of the truck activity would occur inside the parcel and not on Fulmer in front of these 6 residential homes. So I don't know if I'm clear, but to take the traffic further down Fulmer, turn right into the parcel and let the trucks do their business and turning all inside the property and not outside the property. Again, for safety reasons and headlights and windows and things like that. We're trying to minimize the impact of this. of this warehouse in this residential neighborhoods. But uh, other than that, I know all these the truck turning radius, all these issues are going to be addressed. In the plan, it does mention some large, very large trucks are expected there. And yeah, I'd like to confirm and make sure that does occur. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know we also have Council District Representative Alice Udovich. Alice, would you like to speak?
Hello, everyone. Alice Udovich on behalf of Councilman Brian O'Neill. I attended that meeting that Jack mentioned, and I agree with all of his concerns as well. With as much of a buffering as possible to protect that residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. I did read the comments that came through from that meeting, and felt that they're really spot on and they're really good comments that offer good recommendations. That meeting having taken place at the end of May. Would you be able to speak about why some of these comments have not been incorporated into the site, specifically while a major change, the idea of flipping the development so that the trucks would be facing another warehouse rather than the residential. And then the comment that was just mentioned of moving the driveway or potentially adding a second driveway. It's tough to see, and it's easy to imagine the impact that this development is going to have on the houses directly across. And we can see it in this aerial on slide number 78, that the facade that is facing the warehouse could actually be much kinder than the loading facade. But I don't see that these comments have been addressed. And so I wonder if there's a reason that makes them not possible to be done. There was, I think comment number 2 was, could the building be flipped around, have the proposed north side so that the duct doors and activity face an existing warehouse, not the homes, and then could a second entrance or exit be added at the reclaimed end of Fulmer, both of which seem to me to be improvements.
Yeah, so I'm Brian Danahy, I'm the developer for the project. Do you mind going back to the existing conditions page? So this kind of sets why we've chosen the layout we have. So the site slopes significantly from north to south. So if you go to, I think the one before this is the survey. Oh, maybe. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So you can see it slopes significantly. So what we've done is we put it as far away from the residence as possible. If you flip the building, there's about an additional 10 feet that raises that building, and it's slammed up against the property line. So those residents that are sitting there that are looking at the warehouse are just going to be immediately positioned right on top of it with additional 10-foot in elevation. It also adds some complexity of how trucks and cars are then delineated on the property. So from a safety perspective and from a minimal impact, we chose to flip it to the other side, use the existing grades to try to bury that warehouse as low as possible, and then use landscaping and features that we have designed and incorporated to try to block that. So we've over landscaped per code. We're open to suggestions on how to continue landscaping there, but we felt that was the best way to use the existing conditions and be able to minimize the impact. And then from a truck and logistics standpoint, it also matches the existing approvals that were in place. So the 3-building development that was approved that did not go through CDR had the same orientation. And the goal there was simply to be able to delineate trucks and cars as they go onto the property. And so that's why the 2 access points were put in place. We're open to shifting that one access point further down. I think there was some opposition from the public since it's part of the right-of-way that's next to one of the residences. But that's the thought process and the reason that we chose not to flip the building.
What's the elevation difference? Is that 10 feet or so, did you say?
I think it's roughly 10 feet that grades from north to south. And 10 feet. Yeah, and then if you have the front of the building on the south side, the left portion is simply landscaping stormwater and truck parking. So then it brings into play the car and truck crossover there where it become an issue from a safety standpoint.
Page 68. Yeah, I guess this one shows it. So could you articulate that again? So
Yeah, so
if you were to flip the building down.
so if you look at the bottom left, that's
Mhm.
it's a truck parking lot. So if you flip the building, the
Mhm.
trucks then to exit the property are going to have to cross where the pedestrians and the cars are located. So what we've done is we've put all truck traffic on the same side of the building. We've put the building as far north as possible to sink it, and then put all the cars on the north and the east end of the building. So it's perfectly delineated so that from a logistics and access point inside, it flows without any crossover. So that
Yeah,
front,
I'm
sorry,
not
go ahead.
convinced that it's about 25 or 30 feet to shift it down and explore. Have you explored it?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, Rob, if you're on with our civil team, do you want to just explain any details that I'm missing there?
You can unmute now.
Can you hear me?
We can, yeah.
Hi, Rob Cunningham with Holmes Cunningham Engineering. Yeah, we looked, so Brian was a little mistaken. It's actually more like 15 feet of fall across the site. But when you flip the parking lot and provide a truck court or, truck loading docks on the north side, it pushes the building about 65 feet closer to Fulmer Street than it sits today. And then it would also, because of the elevation change, it would have to sit up in the air because the loading docks would need to be recessed 4 feet. So it ends up with a situation where you'd probably have like a wall and then elevated the building. So the building would feel more like 75 feet tall as opposed to 50 feet tall and much closer to the residents. So from that perspective, that's how we ended up with this orientation.
Let's go to any other additional comments here from the committee, and I might have more questions on that. Oh, yeah. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak?
I don't see any hands. Oh, I see a hand is going up. Yeah.
Yes.
We have a couple
Okay.
hands.
Thank you.
Isabel Ortiz, you can now unmute.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us to participate. I quickly, prior to back in November, it was a heavily wooded lot with legacy trees on the lot that had been there since had been there since the turn of the century, basically. And before the land was subdivided, it served as a buffer zone. Just to give you a little bit of history between the current residents, we're a historical neighborhood, and I don't know if you know that, we're dated back to 1854. When Jack said 6 houses, I wasn't sure if he included my house, which would be the 7th. I am the one, I don't want to say the most impacted, I think we're all impacted. I live 37 feet from the main truck and entrance, literally. So when they decimated all the trees, they left it the way it has become more of a vegetation state right now because it's summer and things are growing in. In fact, it's been cited by zoning recently within the last week because it looked like someone had taken a bomb, literally, and destroyed it with no regard to the community. So that was number one. Number two, last Zoom meeting we had, I believe the team that is representing the developer misspoke when they said that there would be no parking anymore on the north side of Fulmer. So they wanted to take away our street parking. After verifying if that was a true fact or not, I verified it with 4 different city agencies, including Ellis, who's on the call right now. And there is parking on the north side. So there's currently parking on both sides of the street. As it sits now, we have the 13-foot walkway / steps to get to what we call the street level, which is roughly 24 feet, and then which was designed to be 34 feet and 13. So the entire width of the street for these tractor trailers is only 60 foot wide with parking on both sides. And then with my house is in one of those pictures. I don't have the ability to go back to like page 69 or 67, but I'm the one on the corner, and literally we take a tape measure from the entrance to my property. It's 37 feet. So I believe That's one of the things. The second thing, where their entrance for the large truckers goes over a natural waterway that has kept our neighborhood from flooding out for over 150 years. And there's a pipe under there which they keep disregarding. They want to macadam over and give us no ability for any runoff whatsoever. And they were correct. Everything runs down Fulmer and to the left and into the stream that's part of the Pennypack watershed system. So this whole property was fed all into the Pennypack system, which all of that now, I'm not so sure the logistics of where all the runoff goes. A lot of it will come onto my property, quite frankly. I'm concerned about the light, the diesel engines running, all these trucks parked directly, literally across the street from my house. Since they've cut the trees, I've spoken with the owner who sold the land to, or subdivided land and then sold it to them, about the noise at 5:30 in the morning on 5:30 in the morning, and then again on Easter Sunday, coming from the factory, and the light pollution. He's agreed to put up some light shields, and he's agreed to put in some trees. So I wanted to correct that. There will be parking on the north side. So I'm not sure why the developer feels that we somehow have illegally parked on his land. I'm also concerned prior to.
Your 2 minutes is up, and we've been generous
Okay,
with the time, but if you could wrap it up, that'd be great.
Okay. I'm also concerned about all the runoff because it was cited for violations of that field being contaminated. I understand there were some hot spots that came up, and according to the new developers, they have treated it. But now that all the trees have been knocked down, the neighbors are very concerned about the land being contaminated as well. So these are some of the issues that we have, and that's pretty much, I want to wrap it up. And also, we requested a traffic study. I understand it was done, but we received no results from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mary Friend. Please state your name for the record.
My name's Mary Friend, and I'm a neighborhood resident. I live 5 doors away from this installation that's going to affect me and my family. The neighborhood is heavily impacted by this traffic and parking effects caused by the proposed plan. Parking that has been available on our public streets for multiple generations will be removed and create a hardship for all residents that are involved. We have seniors that cannot get in and out of their cars. Their parking spaces will be taken away. The trucks will be idling at all times of the night, docked, facing our neighborhood and destroying our residential area. It'll destroy our quality of life in our community. This was supposed to be on Fulmer Street or Bustleton, where these tractors were supposed to be going in and out. This is a small country street, 1 lane, where we pull over to try and let another car come down the street. We can't get up and down the street now. How are we going to survive with 18-wheelers going up and down our small little street? The noise and the fumes from all this is all going to be concerning. And our children are out there playing in the street with 18-wheelers flying up and down the street. The cops can't stay on the street and protect us. They have jobs to do. They're short-handed now. Is there anything you can do to help us?
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I don't see any hands raised, any additional hands.
Thank you. Committee members, any?
I just had a question. I believe north is up, but what is the property sort of page north of this site? I mean, in the corner of the aerial, it sort of looks like an abandoned site. I don't know.
I have the same question.
We're talking this.
It's easier if you go to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just what's in the upper portion of that aerial image. Yeah. What is that? It's sort of, if Lot Street were to continue, what is that property? What is that site?
That's an industrial. So the adjacent property is an industrial warehouse. I don't know their use or the specifics, but it's an active warehouse.
Yeah, I mean, I think
the property owner too was on the public meeting that we had and spoke on behalf of the contamination and what the past history of the property was with the denial of the previous residential proposal and the approval of the industrial project.
Yeah. I mean, it's a challenging situation, you know, and I definitely, you know, feel for the community members who just spoke, whose houses are very close to the entrance to the site. And it does look like Fulmer Street is quite a narrow street with a very quiet residential character. And I understand how sort of the trucks would have a huge impact on that and change it. There obviously are very limited points of access around the site. And I just wonder, you know, if the property to the north is an industrial site and already has truck access, if there would be a way to, you know, create some sort of MOU easement for your trucks to use a portion of that site that already seems to function for vehicles. That could be a way to really be a steward of the neighbors that will be impacted by this project.
Could I address just the full
Yeah.
street improvements? So we have discussed that with the neighbor next door. Unfortunately, they're not amenable to that. But in turn, we've provided significant offsite improvements to Fulmer. If you could unmute Rob Cunningham again, we can describe what those are. We've basically taken on significant right of way on our side of the property. With the previous industrial improvements, Fulmer Street was improved. And so it was widened and also brought up to standards that allowed truck access to the property. We've taken that one step further and we've widened it further onto our property. So the goal being allow for the existing conditions of the residential uses and everything on the south side of the property remains the same. We then expand and take the trucks on our property and allow for that to coexist so that it doesn't impact them to the extent that the existing conditions would.
Mm-hmm.
So do you mind if Rob just walks through what those specifics would be?
He's unmuted.
Hello. So we've been working with streets. We had an approval for the previous iteration of the plan for one driveway that lined up with Baines. We continue that. That is now just a truck access, and then we have that car access, which is closer to Bustleton. So one of the issues that streets had was they wanted to ensure that with the truck traffic coming in, it wouldn't conflict with the parking on the south side of Fulmer. So we're doing significant widening onto our side without impacting the south side of Fulmer, so that the trucks can pass along Fulmer or cars can access Fulmer without cars having to pull over to the side or anything like that. And then it was streets' recommendation to line up with Baines as opposed to continuing down Fulmer into the site. But obviously we've been working through that process with streets and we'll continue to do that. But that was the layout that we got our initial phase approval from the streets department with.
Rob, can you just emphasize or go through the existing width of the street and what we're going to expand it to?
I mean, I don't necessarily think that's necessary. I definitely understand the widening of the street to accommodate the truck traffic, the parking, et cetera, and sort of appreciate those efforts. But I think those efforts are still having a major impact on the character of that street. And so widening the street, I would say, is a detriment to the neighbors, you know, because it really is fundamentally going to change the character and you know, understand the logic of an entrance adjacent to Baines, et cetera. But I think still fundamentally that little corner pocket is a quiet residential pocket, and this is going to transform that. And it seems like, looking at the plan, the only other alternative would be to seek out some sort of MOU with the property to the north. Or I suppose if there is an access easement or right of way, as somebody mentioned, just further extending Fulmer into the site and having sort of all of the turning, et cetera, happening there, which could mitigate against the traffic lights. But then obviously for that property owner there, they now have a driveway along. So it's not a perfect solution. It's unfortunate that that adjacent property owner was unwilling to cooperate.
No, that does seem like a perfect solution, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I recognizing it is not our job to open up our computers and pull up the CAD. It's not hard to see that there is an option that allows the idling of the trucks, the lights of the trucks, the loading overnight to face the other, warehouse. And do we have to deal with the grades? Do we have to move earth around? Do you have to change the way in which the trucks are circulating? Yes. Looking at it in plan, it looks doable. And I imagine that for myself, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of this community, having a taller building on this closer to the residences versus having idling trucks would be beneficial. So it's unfortunate that we don't have that option to evaluate as well. But I'm curious.
Mena,
Yeah.
Additional hands went up. If
They
you'd
did.
like to
Okay, let's
hear
do
them.
that. And then Clarissa, Dan, if you have any comments.
Joe Collins, please take your name for the record and speak up. It looks like you are unmuted, but we can't hear you. I don't know if you're trying to speak. We'll go back to next up is Jay Friends. Please unmute and take your name for the record.
Jay Friend. So hello. So what I have two messages. One, on Fulmer Street, they note that it would not impact southern parking. The issue is not the southern parking, it's the northern side parking, which has been a parking area for multiple generations. Additionally, there is the concern on the north side that was noted, and I appreciate the members discussing that. The north property is the Greenfield property. It has 18-wheelers continuously through that site. It has multiple tenants on that space. Last time we spoke with Greenfield's owner, he said it was because it was a residential property. He thought it was he didn't want random cars driving through his property. He spoke with Isabel Ortiz about that. Now this is an industrial situation, so I'm curious if he would be different and amenable to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
No additional answers.
Does that track? Have you had conversations with a industrial property owner or knowing that?
Yeah, we spoke to him 2 weeks ago. Yeah, right after the public meeting.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any further thoughts?
I think it's telling that there's not a lot of site context shown in the drawings of those adjacent residents. So I would encourage in further discussions to include more context so that the neighbors can better understand what the impacts are. I also wonder, though it may be sort of minimal in its impact based on the development there, but if there are opportunities to provide some amenities to these residents, if there's something that you could provide within your site that might be appealing to them in some way. Again, I don't know how impactful that is, but I think it's worth discussion. I also wonder if there's opportunity for more vegetation and buffer along Fulmer Street if the building maybe was canted to follow the north property line so that it could push a little bit further north and away from the residents and then provide just a little bit more of a buffer. But I do sympathize with the trucks being in such close proximity to those residents.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I would really encourage as a next step, maybe just some additional iterations with community members. I think I would really lean on them for advice in terms of sort of the entrance location, because I do think that the entrances just so close to the houses will have a big impact in terms of the noise and the lighting. I would imagine there are additional opportunities to increase the width of the buffer at the southern end. You know, if you are moving a lot of soil and earth, there could be additional measures such as regrading and creating a little hill on the northern, I think it's the north, I don't see a north arrow, but on the northern side of Fulmar Street, you know, to block noise and to block lights. You know, you either need a wall or a mound and earth. And so there could be additional sort of mitigation measures to help, you know, lessen the noise and the light pollution. And just also noting too, you know, I zoomed in really, really carefully on that landscape plan and note just like the size of the trees that are going to be installed are all 2-inch caliper or less. Those are really tiny trees. And so to make a bigger, better impact on day one for those neighbors, just installing larger plant material strategically near neighbors would be great. And I think, you know, maybe there could be something with the stormwater detention area, you know, if there isn't a community amenity, a boardwalk, a little dog run, a walking path that could be in that portion of the site where you don't have the cars, potentially there is an opportunity there. But I think related to the entrances, if the neighbor to the north is unwilling to cooperate, which is really sad, maybe just, you know, collaborating a little bit with the adjacent neighbors to look at that entrance would make sense. And appreciate, you know, the logic of having the site in the lowest area. But if you are considering moving earth and grading, maybe there's a way to kind of tuck the building into the slope, take some of the excavated soil to create an extra big hill on, you know, the southern side of the site. But I appreciate the challenges.
Just from a limitation standpoint too, just what you'll see from an access is there's legacy trees that are on the property that can't be touched. So some of these areas like where the pavement bulbs on the left, that's all legacy trees. Similarly, on the property line on the east, there's legacy trees that can't be touched. So that played into how we picked our access points, and that was coordinated with streets as well.
Got it. And I love trees. I mean, you know, I appreciate legacy trees and I love trees. And I know lots of people love trees, but in this situation, there might be an argument for, sadly, removing some of the legacy trees to better buffer some of these neighbors. And maybe that is, you know, never ideal, but could be worth exploring.
You know, I'll just try and make a couple comments, I guess. I mean, this is Civic Design Review Committee. So our job is to speak on behalf of civic design. So, you know, this isn't a highlight project in terms of civic design. Warehouse distribution centers, part of modern life. You know, my family is getting a couple packages this week. We get our meals delivered, et cetera. But what do you need for a warehouse project? You need a big flat piece of land and you need good road access, and you don't have good road access here. So you're really handicapped. And the solution that you're forced into is driving, I mean, there's 40 truck docks on the south side, driving 40 18-wheelers past a community's largest asset, the biggest investment they'll ever make. If this happened to my block, you know, I'd be devastated. And you can hear the distress in the people that are calling in. So this is all in context. Let me take a quick break because this isn't the first warehouse distribution center project we've had, and we said a lot of the same things. If you're near a neighborhood, you can put in, you know, dog walking track, you can put in an Amazon delivery box, you can, I don't know, put in a basketball court, you know, you can put in neighborhood amenities. You can cover the roof with solar panels. You've put in a lot of trees. As Sarah's pointed out, 2-inch caliper trees don't make a big difference for a decade or so. But going back to the options you have to make this into a good project, it's about access. And, you know, maybe you do everything you can, you go to the neighbor that has the industrial site and say, you have a choice of trying to find a way to Bustleton Avenue through an industrial site or through a neighborhood. So, you make them an offer you can't refuse. This is Philadelphia. We can't tell you what to do on this type of stuff, but we're at what you've heard today is pointing out the challenges of proceeding with this project. So if you have to proceed with this project in the way it is with the Fuller Street access, it would be beneficial if you made some other types of gestures to ameliorate the impacts. And you've heard a bunch of suggestions. And we hope, with further consideration and thoughts and negotiations, you can come up with something better. But right now, notwithstanding the fact that you have a clean design and you thought about putting in a lot of trees and things like that, from the perspective of this committee, this is not a successful project, and we want to try and look for ways to make it better.
Thank you, Dan. I think we can take a look at notes. Okay, we had some comments from the RCO and from council. RCO suggested the summary is spot on. Would like to minimize the impact of the warehouse property on the residential neighborhood. We heard that the site sits across from 6 residential homes. The parcel has been cleared for some time, and just acknowledging the transformations that the neighbors have gone through here in this location. We ask that you recognize the loss of the open area, and I think that might speak again to what can be done to give something back. The RCO would like to ensure that the warehouse can coexist in a residential area. There was a summary provided to us via letter of the May 27th meeting, and that showed concerns of the traffic flow within the site. To consider a second entrance further down Fulmer so that the truck activity could be inside the property, not on Fulmer in front of the homes and the queuing. Concern about large trucks expected there. Council agrees with all of the RCO's concerns and would like to have as much buffering as possible to protect the neighborhood. So I think that's a typo, to protect the residential neighborhood. Yeah. And we can go to the next one. Notes from the committee. We're concerned about the slope and the elevation and the grades. I'm not sure about that. About what the property is just north of the site. I think I don't know what that first sentence is intended to suggest. Okay, I think that would be good. We did have a question about the property that says just not north of the site. I think what I'd like to say is to modify that first sentence to say that we encourage continued conversation with the owners of the property north of the site, which would be a better access point. We empathize with the community members who express concern about the reduced parking and increased traffic. Could there be an MOU of trucks using portion of the existing industrial site to the north? This way the development could be supportive of neighbors' needs, might be the only alternative. Okay, that's supporting number 1. Concern about widening the street, fundamentally changing the character of what is currently a quiet residential neighborhood. Thinking about maybe changing the circulation patterns of truck. I guess encourage the development team to change the circulation patterns of trucks so that the trucks to prevent, I think, is the idling of trucks, the sound, the lights. What I heard is most of the concerns are around those kinds of implications for the community. Opportunity for more vegetation to buffer along Fulmer. Help me with number 7. Clarissa, is that your comment? Opportunity for more vegetation buffer along Fulmer is property canted along north property line. You meant to say that
consider canting the building to create more space along Side of Fulmer Street for larger buffer.
Mhm. I don't know. I don't know that do these capture the spirit of our conversation, team? Oh, there's more. Okay. We encourage additional conversation with community members, maybe an increased width of buffer at the southern end of the property. Consider regrading and creating a hill or a mound or a wall on the north side of Fulmer to mitigate noise and light pollution. Concerned that the trees installed are very tiny, could consider adding larger plant material, maybe add community amenity, walking path, for example. If the northern warehouse neighbor will not collaborate, maybe partner with neighbors in the residential area to do what?
My suggestion was, if that northern neighbor is not willing to collaborate, I would iterate and test some of these alternative design solutions in collaboration with the community. Because I think, we all, including you, are very sensitive to them being there. And, I think there are trade-offs and pros and cons associated with the various alts. And so exploring those to the greatest extent with the neighbors is something I would recommend.
Okay, and then we have a concern about the access overall. If you have to proceed with the project, it would be beneficial to ameliorate the impacts based on these suggestions. Maybe encourage you, maybe encourage to these suggestions to improve the project.
Just delete that one.
Okay.
Number 7 is.
Yeah, I don't think it's helpful. All right. A motion to accept the notes.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we a little bit of wordsmithing there. Okay. So now I need a motion to continue or conclude the review period.
I'd like to make a motion to continue. Jack O'Hara.
Thank you, Jack.
Second that.
There is a motion to continue the civic design review process for 1685 Fulmer Street. Jack O'Hara, I think you made the motion.
That's correct.
Yes. Alice Yudovich. Do you support the motion? I don't see her unmuted, so I'll go back. Dan, do you support the motion?
Do.
Clarissa, do you support the motion?
Yes.
Sarah, you seconded.
Yes.
Thank you. And Jimena, do you support
Yes.
the motion? And one more time, Alice, do you support the motion? They might have left.
I'm sorry, I am still on the call. I was having trouble unmuting. I do second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Unanimous support for the motion. Motion continues the project.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, and we're gonna move on to the third and final case, and that's 801 North 19th Street, which is coming to us for the second time.
Good afternoon again.
Alice's first.
I'm going to give a brief overview of the project to go over comments from last time, and then the applicant will go through the presentation again. So this is 1801 North 19th Street. We saw it last month in June, and I will give a brief overview. So the area is half an acre. It's zoned RMX3, no bonuses, no variances. Currently, it's a vacant lot. It's 111, I'm going to start over on that one. 111,116 total square feet, 110 dwelling units, 49 parking spaces. United Francisville Civic Association had a meeting with the applicant on May 13th, 2026. So just a reminder, we previously saw this site in 2021. They came back to the June CDR, and on the far right is the planned for, that they are presenting for July. Just a little context, the site is across the street from Playground and Rec Center. There's a number of bus routes in the area. It's walking distance from Fairmont and Ridge Avenues. It's in a dense area, or it's in an area with a lot of row homes. So we're just going to go over some findings from the first review. We had 4 comments for site design, creating larger continuous tree pits, mimic the feeling of the park across the street and soften the building's edge, share the driveway with the adjacent lot, reconsider the circulation of the ground floor, and connect it to the loading in the main lobby. None of these were changed from June to July. For building design, the blunt edge on the corner feels awkward and the asymmetry doesn't work. Consider ways to make the corner more of a statement piece. Would like to see a double floor lobby. Wiley Street facade could benefit from some changes in colors or materiality. The additional height of the garage is a detriment to the pedestrian experience. Consider reducing the scale to match the previous proposal, and consider replacing the Juliet balconies with full balconies. None of these suggestions were followed through with. For the parking, add pedestrian safety features and signage to the garage and loading zones. There have been changes to that. And then consider renewable energy. There have been changes to that. So just a little overview. Staff recommends reconsidering the ground floor circulation. The interior loading zone does not have direct access to the mailroom or lobby, or elevators, creating a complicated circulation, especially if there's package drop off and pickup. Move the exterior loading closer to the lobby. Once again, this might create an easier access for people who are dropping off packages, picking up people, etc. And then also consider moving the bike room to the main entrance. Right now, it is closer to the driveway of the adjacent parcel. Add amenities to the public space in front of the lobby to activate it. In that triangle area in front of the lobby, there's potential for some zhuzhing up. For the building design, retool the layout of the corner units to allow for windows to be centered or have larger windows. Because right now, the corner has a bathroom that would be on that corner facade. The main entrance doesn't go far enough in making a statement or feeling welcoming. We would still like to see that larger lobby in that area. Staff appreciates the balconies, but once again, we would like to see it go further with the full balconies. Once again, for the building design, the parking lot screening could use a little more thought. This project, this will require a garage facade review, so that will have further consideration. And then considering adding depth throughout the cornice line. For the parking design, consider reducing the parking and adding commercial space along Wiley Street. And if possible, we still encourage using the adjacent properties curb cut so that we can reduce the number of curb cuts in this area. And then this project had 6 of the 11 applicable metrics for this project. And sign.
Hi, Rustin Oler, Harmon Deutsch Oler Architecture. So I'll just do a brief summary and then I'll go through the changes that we made. So this is our second time back civic design review for the redesign. The property originally came here in 2021. We were not the architect and it was under different ownership. This is unique in the fact that the property does have a building permit and it is actively under construction. So I'm very limited in what I inherited that I can change to the ground floor. Since the last meeting, we did actually, I personally did speak to the development team of the townhome sites to the north of us. Those townhomes are actively under construction. It is owned by 2 separate individuals and 2 separate development teams because it got sold off on 2 separate street sides and they have conformed HOA documents and are actively for sale and we have no ability to access that property in any way. The majority of the designs that came from the new ownership and changes resulted from some of their personal preferences, as well as a lot of community feedback when it went through in 2021. A lot of criticism that it got at the time from CDR and from the neighbors was a reduction in unit count, increase in unit sizes, and increase in parking. Almost every change that we made was in direct response to that happened in 2021. So while we did infill the bookends at the top floor on each side, which previously had covered terrace decks at the end, to increase the GFA, it was done in order to increase all the unit sizes throughout the building. And at the same time, we decreased the number of units from 115 to 110. So while I understand our massing is different on the ends than the original 2021 presentation, it was done with the intent of decreasing units and increasing unit size. Height, we have increased the building height 6 feet from the 2021 proposal. And the only reason in doing so was to accommodate more parking. So we basically are limited in what was previously permitted to access the loading, the ramp, and how we can ramp down into the space. We can't increase the ramp size without causing an issue with cars getting into the garage. Therefore, I can't increase the parking garage depth without drastically reducing parking. And what we did was we increased the garage ceiling height in order to accommodate future stacked mechanical parking, which would potentially double our number of cars that we could have. So in response to last week's comments, looking at this image, we did not change the interior floor plan in the corner. We did keep the windows in asymmetry. It was preferred both by our team and the development team and ownership. We did add brick articulation to create the 801 buildings identifier signage. And we did add an awning at the corner with downlighting to further define the residential entrance. The construction pictures are old, the foundations are in now. I'll just
2 more
get
minutes left because it's a reduced time.
I'm just
for
getting to some of the
second
changes.
presentation.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
Appreciate it.
We did add solar panels. We did also go back to the RCO. We did represent to them to address some of their current concerns. The largest concern that they had was noise from the roof deck. The roof deck's been designed to be centered into the building so that nobody can get near the edge. It is also broken up into 4 separate pockets, so you don't have a large congregation of people in any one section. And we did add solar panels. There's no way for anybody to get near the edge. So that would address their concerns of sound from the roof deck, because the previous version from 21 did not have a roof deck. Let me get to some of the other changes. Continuous, so grade, just so you can see. So while we did raise the building, and it is a full 6 floors now at the primary corner, there's a significant 6-foot grade change over the site. So we're 5.5 stories on the end. Understanding we will have to go through city garage screening planning review. We kept the current screens now. We'll work with city planning on what the screens are made out of. And then we have the building setback and planners at each screen. So we have vegetative at the streetscape. We did look at increasing the tree pits. We have increased them from the previous streets approval. In our design, they're same location. There are, I think, 3 foot by 6 foot or 9 foot now. We will continue to work with the streets department to see if we can elongate those as much as possible. There's a continuous grass strip at the park across the street that they don't actually allow us to do without a city council ordinance, but we'll see what we can do to increase the size of the tree pits. To be honest, that's the majority of the changes.
Thank you very much. I will say I really appreciate you taking the time to explain some of the context, the reach out that you did since we last met. Really appreciate that. Thank you. I think there's no vote today. The project will go on. It's just if we had any final comments.
Echo what you said. And it's great to see panels being planned from the very start instead of vague promise to consider it in the future. The challenge of this project is the ground floor, but this is a handsome facade to overlook the park. And I wasn't here last time, so everything's new for me. So that's all my comments.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
There's still a vote on the
Comments?
comments.
I don't
Do
know
we
if
need
you
to do
public.
something?
A vote on the comments.
Oh, on the comments. Okay, one
Do
Probably
you need to
not-
do
not-
public?
Not a
Is
whole
there
lot, but,
anybody?
Was there anybody on the public?
no, we don't have any hands
Okay,
raised.
just checking.
Yeah, thank you. You're like, I came ready.
And
Uh,
I think we just want to say we appreciate the staff comments, yeah,
Yeah.
include
Yeah,
the thorough review.
yeah, so that is our notes. Great to see the solar panels being planned from the start. The ground floor is a challenge, but the facade facing the park looks nice. Please include the staff comments. And again, it's nice to see when our process actually, results in additional conversations and in candid discussions. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a vote on the notes, approval of the notes. Are we good?
Motion to approve the comments.
Sorry, Seth.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. That concludes our session. Thank you, Mina.